This White Lotus scene reminded me that men you're hooking up with will make you their therapist. I swear to God. These same men will not usually talk to the women in their lives about stuff, oftentimes, but they will turn strangers that they met at a bar into their therapist. I'm gonna break it down a little bit more, just how much they do this in that one scene. But I say this as somebody who I had a tender bender that lasted multiple years, and I forked so many dudes that I didn't know, or I don't even remember their name, and I love that for me. It was literally just to have fun and get practice at centering my pleasure. I got real good at it. And one of the things that I found annoying was after a while, it wasn't fun hooking up with a lot of these men because I ended up being their therapist, like literally their life coach / therapist. I can't tell you how much precious advice, career advice, like all kinds of stuff that I gave these men because I just couldn't help it. I give good advice a lot of times, not to myself, but people do come to me for advice because I, try to be very direct but thoughtful. And when asked, I am the friend who will tell you what you don't want to hear, but it also the truth will set you free, but it'll ruin your day kind of thing. Like I'm really good at that, but not unsolicited advice anymore, thank God. And if you do that, you're probably codependent. So stop giving people advice that they don't want, especially if you follow me and are like, you should change this, that, there. You get blocked that way. As someone who wrote this article, Men Have No Friends and Women Bear the Burden for Harper's Bazaar that went viral in 2019, one of the things that was left out of that article, just because of word count, was my interview with workers. There's a whole part in that article where I talk about just how bad it is that men will literally pay to be their therapist. Now, they won't actually pay a real therapist because a real therapist may actually call them on their stuff and, challenge them and do harder work with them. But they loved offloading this onto schmegs workers. And the ones that I interviewed hate doing this kind of labor. They would much rather stick to what their job is than being this emotional support and here's some awful stuff. One of the women I interviewed, and I could be wrong, but my conclusion based on my own experience of hooking up with endless men, listening to them talk about this crap, as if they've never talked to anyone other than me about it, and from these interviews, is that it is it's so much easier to deal with the physical stuff than this really it's trauma dumping that they do. One of the women I interviewed said that it's when they have a man come in and they're like, oh God, here we go. And they either complain about their wives, or complain about something, or so. One guy came in and had literally just been diagnosed with brain cancer. What did he do? He went straight to a schmegs worker to dump that on her. It will literally go to pay anyone but a therapist. You know what I mean? That thing that people say all the time, men will do, go to Mars before going out there. There's a reason why that joke is a thing. And one of my specific stories, when I was on this one tender bender that I write about in the Daily Beast, actually, it's a super fun article if you want to read it, was I was hooking up on the beach in Saint-Tropez, okay? Now, Saint-Tropez is not just a bunch of billionaires. There's a lot of working class people who go there. I was camping. I was sleeping on a cot. And I was with my friend and her dad. And I snuck out every night to go hook up with dudes. I was 40 years old, maybe 41. I love that for me. And I hooked up with all these hot dudes and, they ate my and all that stuff. But I remember one hookup was pretty crazy, wild and on the beach on an inflatable couch thing. I don't know, whatever. Thank God we didn't get caught by anyone. But I just remember right after some he just out of nowhere told me about his mom, her suicide attempt, and I'm like, whoa, what's happened? So they're like, oh, I can't be I don't want to talk about that, right? Because women have been taught to be, thoughtful and emotionally intelligent. Someone drops a bomb like that, you want to be no, right? You're oh wow, I'm sorry, that must be hard. I tried to do you have anyone to talk to about that? Maybe you should talk to your friends about that. I was hard to be Anyway, it ruined the vibe, and I can't tell you how many, one guy that I hooked up with, he was forking his boss, and she was married with children. He was she was, cheating on her husband. He was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, dude, you need to like not like, I was like literally told him how to handle that situation because like that is a very bad situation to be in. You're forking your boss. Like whatever. Anyway, I can't tell you how much of this I had to deal with. And actually one of my best friends here finally called me on my crap because I also surround myself with people who will give, tell me the truth I don't want to hear. And finally she was like, Melody, you either need to start charging men or stop. They are literally exhausting you and you don't know how to not help them. But they're not your friends. You don't even ever see them again. You don't care about them and you're giving too much. Either start like a, Tinder hookup / coaching session, like you eat my, and then for like $100 I'll give you, what happened? Like it was like a joke. But she was like, your energy, I can tell, like they're like vampires. They are sucking your energy. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like good schmegs and getting my kitty cat. None of this is worth the emotional labor that I'm doing for these dudes. Okay, so I am speaking from experience here when I tell you that men who like you're just like hanging out with them, partying with them, and like especially you're hooking up with them. Some of them will tell you their deepest, darkest secret that they literally don't talk to anyone else about other than like the next woman they hook up with. And of course, so they never actually process it or work on it. They just keep drama dumping on every woman they ever met. But then if they get in a relationship with a woman, they will talk about it with her often. So that's when I realized, you know what, like. Even forking strangers that are hot and fun isn't worth it. Like, even if they're good in bed, it is not worth it. Because women are always going to end up doing some sort of labor for free, I swear to God, when it comes to men. They're little tapeworms. And then in addition to that, y'all, I haven't drank since like 2004. And I had like long periods of like I didn't really drink that much before 2004. The last time I like drank alcohol at all, other than like one sip. I'm not an alcoholic, by the way. One sip at our wedding of champagne from Champagne, France. I haven't had any, like not a beer, nothing since 2004. So every crazy story you may have ever heard me tell on here or on the Risk podcast or any of my articles, I did sober. Totally sober. So I also love this scene because like there's two of them are wasted and the one like Republican, like the one that I was like, God, I can't stand you. I can relate to her the most in this scene, even though I'm usually like the wild one doing crazy stuff. I'm always sober though. You know what I mean? And like, so I related to her being the person who was like, oh my God, this isn't fun being here, not drunk, but like one of us needs to not be drunk. And it was her. And that's usually me. Now, I don't usually stay in situations unless they're still fun for me, right? Because I realized also that when I hang out with people who are like drinking, that's fine. I do it all the time. I live in France. Like I would have no social life if I didn't hang out with people drinking. But I don't hang out with people wasted. Because to me, unless I am so entertained by what's going on here and it's super fun for me, which happens sometimes I'll like stick around. But unless it's super fun for me, I don't like talking to people who won't remember literally anything. I feel like I have just deposited money into a bank account with a hole in the bottom of it. You know what I mean? Like it is not relationship building. There's no sense of reciprocity. Like there's no getting to know you. Like we're not building a friendship because you don't remember anything we talked about. And to me, it is just like, it reminds me of being with my dad. Anyway, so I want to show you in these scenes what I'm talking about. So if you haven't watched the show, that's fine. You don't need to watch the show to understand my point. These three are rich women, blonde women, old friends. They go out partying, and guy at the hotel introduces them to his friends. And first of all, they are all way out of these guys' league. Like I'd be pissed if like the other two dudes are okay, but like this dude. And like right out of the gate, he's like, my parents are dead. She's like, oh no. The way that women have to pretend like we care, but also like we do care. You know what I mean? Like oh my God, like this is the beginning of the night though. She's gonna care a lot less later. And my sister's that's why I like my friends. They are everything to me. And she just does so much emotional, right? And then he's like, I did exercise with Taya. This is like if the Russian from Rocky IV like shaved his head and lost some weight and came to White Lotus. When you flip tires and blah blah blah. Like I think the thing is as somebody who is always sober but people think is drunk, And she's not even totally sober, right? She's just like watching her drink. In the beginning of the night, this is funny. This is entertaining. I love like meeting people. I love people. I find people fascinating. So beginning of the night, this is fun. Because where on earth would these three women be in a room with these three? And honestly, like the other, like everyone just like, they just want to dance. You know what I mean? This face he's making is so perfect. But as the night goes on, again, like the Republican lady was just like, don't you think we should go? And they're like, no. Now, again, I am not ever the drunk girl being like, no, let's not. But I am the sober person who I am usually the last person to go to bed. Okay? Everyone else, because they're drunk, they fall asleep early. So I am oftentimes one of the last people standing if it's still fun. As long as I'm entertained and not having dead end conversations that are not entertaining, I'm up. Okay? I have endless energy. I'm also narcoleptic, so once I'm done, I'm done. But up until that moment of like robot shuts down, I'm just like, bah! Right? Which is why people take their keys from me all the time. They're like, you can't drive. I'm like, oh, you silly. I've been drinking water all night, not vodka. So this is supposed to be a wild night at the hotel, even though like the Republican lady was like, oh God. Really gonna bring them back? Now, what's funny is that she is also kind of like talking about her life, but it's different when women do this, okay? Now, I would hate to be a part of this friend group because at the end of the day, like these three white ladies remind me of how lonely it is when you have women who center men and women who are living like inside of like whiteness, like who are like trapped in it unknowingly, kind of. If you don't know what I mean by that, I talk about this a lot. I'm not going to go into it, but it's just like these rules, like the tenets of white supremacy, this rigidity of it, this like it's a very unhealthy way to live. Okay, so even though it's like the point of it is violence and keeping the hierarchy and these power structures and justifying the exploitation of the labor and the violence against Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, but especially in the United States, Black Americans. This friend group, even though they're close, there's like, it's full of like mean girl kind of stuff, right? This like competitiveness, this like talking crap about each other behind each other's backs. Like all of them at some point have like cried about the other two, right? I think. Except for the famous one. Maybe she hasn't cried. I don't know. Whatever. It's just like, there's not a sense of closeness and community. It's more just like staying in line, right? But like trying to be close. There's something, it's just that, it's that pick-me-ism too, right? And the Republican lady is a Trump supporter. Aha! And they're just like, oh my God. So anyway, it's my guess is that she has talked to her friends about this. Or maybe not them, but like people in her life back home. Because these are all friends from like childhood, I think, or whatever. But in general, women talk to each other about things. Okay? So I think she's just drunk and just being like, wow! Like, but not because she has no one to talk to. And yet the way the men respond is very different than the way the women respond to the drunk man trauma dumping. And she's not trauma dumping, she's just like complaining, right? Because this is another thing, is a lot of times when people get drunk, they lose their inhibition. So they can't, keep that quiet rage contained as much. Or that like self-policing of like, and like the male gaze centered thing and following the rules and being, decent, as Victoria would call it. God, I think a lot of times, especially, I'm gonna speak for white people. A lot of white people get drunk so that they can like not have to play by these ridiculous rules for a minute, then they can blame it on alcohol. You know what I mean? The policing of oneself, the policing of others, like just, fuck it, right? So she's just like complaining, right? I'm a fucking great liar, right? Like we've all seen this person. So a lot of people, I'm sure I was like this at some point when I used to like do drugs and like drink a lot. And I used to be shy. So I think that's one reason why I quit drinking. Besides I'm narcoleptic and also because I had an eating disorder and I didn't like all the calories. And I really wanted the challenge of like knowing that I could have fun and like not have to rely on booze to help me tap into this like energetic self that you're seeing right now. This only, like this, I would not come out without the help of a lubricant. And so quitting drinking was an amazing way for me to challenge myself and see if I could get in touch with this person that I am without the aid of something else. And I've done it. I'm proud of that. Sometimes I really miss how easily people speak other languages when they're drunk. Like me learning French has been much harder because I don't drink. Everyone's like, just get drunk and then you'll speak so fluently. I'm like, I know, but my shame, I can't get I'm drunk on shame when I speak. But also that like bravado and that like, God, right? I don't get to tap into that quite so much, so I have to do it like naturally, and it's harder. She's like, maybe she's just telling us that they're not even listening. Maybe I just leave. You know, like, look at his face. He's like, And then she talks about how she has to pay spousal support. We actually learn a lot about her here. She must have married a hobo. And, she's also like trying to school him on, you want to know it's like, patrimony. And then they're laughing, right? Again, very different response from someone telling you a lot about their life and something they're struggling with. These dudes are laughing, and she's like, ugh. And so she's like, that's fine, make fun of it. Like, no, we are laughing because we're being misogynistic. You're saying you need a man to take care of you. A real man, not an American man. Let me tell you something. You will never convince me, as Bourbon Bougie said. The dust is global, okay? I bet you money there's just as many hobo schedules in that culture as there are in ours. But this is their way of like doing emotional labor here. Being like reinforcing patriarchy. Like, thanks, bro. Yeah, so let's contrast that to this conversation. So the Republican gets stuck talking to this dude again. Like, look at his face while he's saying this. My mother died when I was 7. She's like, oh no. Yeah, and my father died when I was 12. Look at her. This one's drunk is like, this isn't fun. Never mind, I'm checking out. And she's just like, oh God. The patient, I swear, like women are expected to mother every single man out there. I swear to God. Literal stranger she met at a club. She's just like, okay, Timmy. Well, tell me how you feel. Oh, no. He's like, my mother's sister. She's like, oh, your aunt? That was a little patronizing. This scene made me, I died. Yeah, my aunt. She's like an evil woman. Now, look at her face. This is when she's realizing, oh my God, I am stuck. I am in a full-blown therapy session with this man. How do I get out? And meanwhile, her friend is like passed out, done. And I know what it's like to be this person. Like, oh man, I am stuck with all these freaking people. And you just get to pass out. She broke the bottle on my head. She blamed me for the death of her son. Like, this is so much. Okay? This is so much. This is not true. It's bullshit. Then she's finally like, hey, you know what? I think the night's over. Like, a little help, somebody. How do we get rid of these men? Then, of course, she has to do some self-deprecating humor here. We need our beauty sleep. We're old ladies. I'm so sorry, but we're old ladies. Emotional labor right here. We don't want to hurt your feelings or your fragile little ego. We're old. Remember, we're old. We're lucky to even be with y'all. We're just old losers. So, yeah, grandma's got to go to bed. Night-night. And, of course, this one comes back. We're not. So annoying. She's like, dude. Like, look at all this work. She's babysitting this entire group. And as somebody who's been in this position so many times, it sucks. And then she even says this, good luck with your family. This whole scene is just too perfect. Like, look at her face. See, this is all... Now, this is like all fake, right? This is also like, and it's annoying. Like watching these women do all this, like, oh, it's so much how white women are trained, right? I just happy. This doll, even though, like, even when we're full of rage and other feelings, it's had to be a bad, right? Which is not good. But in this scenario, it's also like can be used for good sometimes. She's just like, I just want to get these crazy men out of here. I go to bed. So she's like, So it's not that this isn't it's useful sometimes. But the problem is that like white women, we do this all the time until we're in a situation And if we're deconstructing this stuff and we have power over someone and pull a Karen, then we like use this doll, this person becomes very violent and dangerous, and either, and incites violence through the system or through like, some white man to go do the violence for us, right? Which is that's why we get made fun of for weaponizing our tears, right? Like this is like, in this scenario, it's smart to do. Oh, because this is also what you do to stay safe when you are with like 3 enormous men in a foreign country and everyone's drunk but you. And then when they leave, she's like, God, I thought they're never gonna go. This moment of relief, so relatable. And of course, her friend's like, oh my God, they were fun. Which again, I'm like a mixture of I'm usually like that person who's like, this is fun. Except this one with like really annoying drunk people. Yeah, so fun. Oh my God, I love you guys. See, we can still have fun. Like all this, the conservative where I really don't like her for most of the show, but in this scene, I was like, yeah, I get it. I feel bad for you in this scenario. Look at her here. If we could only be this real more often, y'all, we would not be like at war with ourselves all the time and then like creating so much confusion and chaos and violence for everyone we have power over. Anyway, the point is that whether you're hooking up with them or just getting a drink with them and they're hoping to hook up with you, or no matter what it is, I swear to God, when you deal with men, you should just assume that you're going to be expected to do a whole lot of free emotional labor for them. Okay. Now with hookups, unfortunately, a lot of women, which is how I was for my, until my like late 30s, not only do you end up doing emotional labor for men, but then you also end up basically being an unpaid schmegs worker, right? Because it's all about them and their pleasure, and that you might as well like not even be there. You might as well be, I don't know, one of these robot blow up dolls, because they don't see your humanity. They don't care about your pleasure. They don't even know where you're like, and even if they did, they don't care to do anything because it's all about them. But even when you are with men like I was during all my tender benders, with men that I insisted that they center my pleasure, they still wouldn't shut the fuck up. In the beginning, I was like, oh, it's cool to kind of connect. And after a while, I was like, no, it's not. I don't want to date you. I don't want to give you free advice, because I realized they never gave me good advice. They never had anything enlightening to share with me. It was just basically me like taking care of their ego. One dude who was like a model, okay, which sorry, I'm not saying like ew, like I'm more like I'm like couldn't believe a model would want to hook up with me. And this was also in Saint-Tropez. The dude had gotten in a bike accident and had messed up his face, and was like, he was actually a really sweet dude, but he felt like a little insecure, and like he looked totally normal, but I think it had been really traumatizing for him. And I felt like I was like mothering him a lot. And even after we hooked up, he was like, do you have any feedback for me? Like, was that good for, like, I swear, if we're not mothering them, we're teaching them, we're doing something. But all I know is we're not getting paid for any of it. And I'm done. Aren't you? Let me know what y'all think. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please join my Patreon. That's what's paying all my bills right now. With the exception of a little bit from YouTube or TikTok, it's really Patreon. I've got some great lives coming up. Travel content. I'm telling me and Anthony's like marriage story over on Patreon right now. I don't want to share my private life with like the public that much. I'm very... Usually, whatever. Like all like nonfiction essayists and writers, like you have to like choose what you want to share and what you want to keep private. So yeah, I share more over there. Join. Let me know if you heard that comment song. Welcome to the comment song, Anthony's birthday weekend edition. Last night we had a bunch of cake with friends, a carrot cake and then some fruity stuff in this thing. Then today we had a big lunch with this family and had this like eggplant spread and a shrimp spread and the peanuts and blazer apero. Also had some more gato. I don't know why they put 806. I guess it's a joke the kids did. Two cakes for Anthony's birthday and a big old mess. Because, children everywhere and another dog. But they love their ton and messed up his face. Anyway, we had fruits de mer. That's a bunch of seafood stuff, and they call it fruit of the sea. Anyway, that was really good. And then we had some big old bowl of
like fruits. Anyway, it was a great day. And here's a picture of the sweet baby most burying his head in me. And another photo of Mosen, his big old paws. Anyway, that's the comment song. Follow me on Patreon to get more stuff like this. Et voilà.